everybody, Jonathan Reeves here with another Vectorworks video. Now we're going to continue adding construction detail to our project that we started a while ago. You've seen my part 1 video hopefully, if not check it out on the channel. It's doing really well, it's got over 1600 views and it's a really nice sort of video to show you how to get started from planning stage moving through to construction and building regulations. So we're going to basically push forward a bit on this project and just show you the next stage of development. I hope you enjoy this video. Thanks for watching. Okay, so in the next part of this video we're going to be developing a bit more detail in our sections. We're going to be working on the roof and the foundations, basically kind of working this drawings package up to the next level of detail really. So you can see I've just double clicked on my section viewport, and a nice little feature here is to navigate back to the section in place. And what that does, it takes you back to the design layer, but it basically puts it back into section view and renders it using hidden line. Now you can change it to OpenGL as I've just done there, but what's really nice is you can kind of see exactly the section cut that you're working on. And this really helps in that you can actually sort out any kind of glitchy junctions or resolve any details you need to do. You can see that the return to viewport button is highlighted and just sort of waiting for us to return. We can still change the visibility of the layers so that we can kind of move around the design and so on. Obviously we can kind of change to different views. But basically that's a little round tripping exercise. If you return to the viewport, once you've done a few edits, it'll take a second, but it will basically re-render those section viewports for you so that you can basically see any changes that you've incorporated. So I do recommend this as a very nice way to develop your sections. Double click them and do the edit section in place. Okay, good. So what we're going to do now, we're going to basically do a bit of work on the roof structure. So I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to call this 3D proposed roof structure. And basically we're going to develop what we think is the appropriate structure for the roof, just to explore how this is going to work. So I just need to probably check my layer order here, and also just quick check into the height of the layer. So basically I'm setting the elevational height of the layer to be essentially the same as my proposed roof layer. I'm just doing a bit of renaming there as well. Personally, when I use my layers in Vectorworks, if they're 3D, I like to either add the word 3D in front of all the prefixes, or sometimes use the word mod for model. But basically, I recommend that when you're working, you distinguish between 3D layers and 2D layers. So I'm just entering up the same height datum, the elevational height, for this roof structure layer, so that when we draw this, this will be in exactly the correct place. Okay, so we've dragged off the palette from basically the Vectorworks detailing tools, and the main tool that I'm going to use for this process is actually called the framing member tool, and this is a really good tool for doing beams, steels and rafters. So you can see basically I've just changed the settings on that tool, and I'm just typing in the angle. Now that I've changed it to a rafter, sorry, here it is, it's a beam rather. If I change it to a rafter, you'll notice that you get the pitch popping in. So you can type in the pitch, and I'm going to type in 37 degrees to match the pitch of my roof, of course. So there's my first little rafter. Now it's not quite in the right position, but we'll sort that out in a minute. Let's go and change its size. So I can make it width, say 50 mil, and maybe depth 200 mil. I'm going to basically go through and create a fascia to begin with, actually, before I create a rafter. So I'm just going to creating a class for this so that it gets its graphics through class. Make sure that you click make all attributes by class if you want to make sure that the object responds to those class graphics. Excellent, so we've got a roof fascia. We're just going to pop it into position, holding down the B key there just to give me the X-ray fill so that I can actually snap nice and accurately to the size. And then because it's parametric, I can simply adjust the depth, just so it kind of sits nicely as a little fascia in front of that roof. And I do recommend this just so it sort of hides some of the detail of the actual roof itself. So I think what we'll do, we'll basically just have a look at the options here. If we scroll down a bit further, there's a little option to basically take away the extension on the end of that rafter. Let's have a look, where is it? It's down a bit further. Yeah, there we go. Just down at the bottom, so you can see bearing inset, let's change that to 0. That means we just don't get any kind of extension, maybe just a tiny bit, just so we can have our guttering and our fascia built in there as well. Okay, so really, really nice, these rafter tools. What I'm going to do once I've got this one is mirror this one across, and then we can use this to actually create the rest of the rafters, and you'll see how this works. Okay, so let's have a look at the next little stage. So let's just go to our mirror tool, mirror that across in 3D, and you can see now when I look at my roof, I've got a nice little basically fascia board there. Okay, so we're ready to select our fascias. Let's duplicate them, and let's basically change the width of those from sort of fascia width to rafter width. We'll create another class, roof-rafters. Now I like using the prefixes and using the hyphenation so that it kind of subsets into our roof class. That helps you become more organized. And let's just set some graphics up associated with that. We'll go for kind of a browny color, just to represent the fact it's kind of going to be, made of wood. And I'll just pop some sort of timber texture. Now I know we're not going to have oak rafters, but it gives the impression of something that looks quite woody in our render. Good. Okay, so let's move this to its first position there, and basically we can hold down the option key, type in 400 so that we can copy and move. And now if we do Command D and just keep going with duplicate commands, essentially it's going to duplicate in an array of 400 settings, but more like a user-defined array. So already I can see that's going to work quite nicely. Essentially, I can take all of those and mirror them. Let's mirror them all across. Whoops. Let's mirror them all across, just so we've got a fascia board just down at the other end as well. Okay, that's good. Let's have a quick look in 3D. So at the moment, I'm in layer options, grade others, and you can see with the roof turned on, they sit nicely in the correct position. That's good. So, looking good so far. So what I'm going to need to do now is basically sort out the holes for the V-luxes and do a bit of work on the other sort of fascias and things like the ridge as well. Excellent. Okay, so what we'll do is start to work on these bits around the windows. So I'm going to double up the rafters, essentially, where you would double them up to form the V-lux opening. Constructionally, you need a bit more kind of beefed up structure there. And basically you can see it's very easy for me to drag these rafters and essentially just sort of shorten them or adjust the length of them as required. And nicely sort of snapping. Whoops, that one was slightly out of a line there. Let's just snap that back into position. Now you will notice that if you basically readjust the position of the rafters, because they're fixed probably from the bottom anchor point, the one that I amended at the top there is now vertically in the wrong position, but that's no bother. You just basically move it up and essentially drag it into position. That's excellent. Okay, good. So this is a nice little start. So what we'll do is now duplicate one of these rafters again. Let's just Command D, Command L. And basically I want to make this into basically a beam really, so it's got no pitch. So I'll just make it into a solid beam. So it's not a rafter anymore, it's really just a bit of timber that's spanning across. Okay, let's drag that across and let's hold down the Alt key. Just checking in 3D where that sits in the section. Using the B key, super useful. I love this in Vectorworks. I love to be able to use the X-ray fill. It gives you very precise snapping, and it means that you can work in 3D without having to revert to wireframe or switch view or kind of turn layers and classes on and off. So we'll do a little bit more adjustment on this. We can take off the 50mm extension on that rafter because that was one that we cut basically. Okay, that's good. So what we'll do now is we'll select these end bits and we'll duplicate those. Let's just have a quick look where the V-lux is. And let's use our X-ray fill mode again just to push those down into the roof space, into the correct position sort of structurally where they would be bracing the rafters so that we can kind of get our roof in. Now, in terms of sort of actually doing the detail here, a good builder is going to be able to kind of build this sensibly. So, the exact position of those rafters isn't necessarily that critical. I don't expect them to follow this to build to. Good carpenters will build, they know how to build a framed roof. But it is really useful as a point of design and visualization for me, also for the client. It's also really helpful in terms of costing, just to be able to kind of, see how much timber is required for the roof. A bit later on when I'm ready, I could actually do a spreadsheet if I wanted, a worksheet, where I could actually quantify all the individual framing members and basically get a kind of almost like a cost estimate if I knew the rates per metre, linear metre. So very, very useful, I find, this process to actually kind of reassure myself on the design that everything's going to work. I can show the engineer what my design intentions are, and the engineer can sort of give advice on things like the rafter sizing and the structural calculations for the beam sizing and so on. Okay, so with a bit more work, here are the roof structure pretty much done for this side. So I'm just duplicating the fascia again, making that into a sort of small solid beam, if you like, and taking away the pitch. And you can see it's a different colour, which is nice. So let's just kind of snap that to the side of the roof, just so we've got a fascia to basically apply our gutter to. So let's just reposition that nice little fascia there. Quick spin around in the 3D, that looks great. That just sort of fixes the rafter ends and gives us the place to essentially, put our guttering on. You can see the slate running down on top nicely. So it's all looking good, and making me feel much more confident about the amount of timber that's required. As I say, we can duplicate this now. Amazingly, just turn this rafter into a steel section. So I've turned it into a steel section. I'm going to click on the select steel profile. And one thing I love about Vectorworks, it's just got all the universal beam and column sizes built in already. You can actually put your own versions in or custom sizes, but I'm really keen just to put standard sort of steel size in here. I'm not sure what it's going to be. I'm not the engineer. He'll, hopefully give me some calculations and tell me when we get there. But I'm just going to kind of take a bit of a guess based on what I've done before with the experience. It's going to be something like a 203 times 133 times 50. So it gives me a really nice little kind of beam, really nicely modelled and drawn. And basically, I can just move that up underneath my ridge there. Let's duplicate it up one more time. Now I'll just change it back to a beam again. So this is kind of my ridge beam, if you like, and obviously that needs to be a bit deeper. So let's just move that up there to support the ridge, and probably going to make that, let's say 200 or 300, maybe a little bit less. Yeah, just keep adjusting as required, really. What we'll do, I think I'll change the material there by using the eyedropper tool just to show that that's timber. And basically, whoops, I've drawn it in the wrong layer, I think. So let's just swap it to the correct class. That's fine. There we go. Okay, that's good. So this side of the roof is almost done. I think what we can do now is pretty much mirror all of this structure. Just need to do a final bit of tweaking and adjusting there. And I'm going to create one more little class for my steels. The good thing about doing this, again, I can sort of highlight to the engineer where the steels are that I need the advice on in terms of beam sizing, and let him do what he needs to do. Make comments on, whether this looks sensible. But I always think if you kind of model something up like this and it looks buildable, looks sensible, you normally find that it works. So from experience, I'm pretty confident that he's going to approve what I'm sort of suggesting design-wise, and that's really going to be kind of helpful in speeding up the process. Okay, brilliant. So let's just delete that element there. Let's take all of this. Let's click M for mirror on my workspace. My enhanced workspace, remember, has all these wonderful shortcuts which make life so much easier. So do let me know if you're interested. I sell these on the website as well as my libraries. I've got my enhanced workspace that you can benefit from. It's got lots of nice right clicks and shortcuts. So I hope you've enjoyed that demonstration of the roof framing member and the flexibility. With a little more work, here is where I got to on the roof structure here. As I say, I just think this is extremely useful for the contractor and for the costing side, but it also really gives me the design confidence to move forward with the next stage. And obviously, this is going to add a nice bit of detail when we come back and look at things like our sections as well. So brilliant design tool. It's so great to be able to sort of visualize how the structure and everything works, as well as the, things like the walls and windows and doors for the architectural elements. So you can see I just need to make a few little tweaks to my wall heights here. I'm going to need some sort of wall framing member there to run across the top of that wall, but that's fine. We can add that detail a bit later. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this little demonstration. And basically, I've just found OpenGL rendering Vectorworks really fast. I upgraded to macOS Catalina recently, and my 2016 MacBook Pro is still going strong. It was actually a bit like having a new MacBook. With the new version of Vectorworks 2021, the performance on the graphics side is vastly faster. The stability is also amazing. Really kind of not experiencing much problem at all. And basically it meant that I didn't have to buy a new laptop. Okay, good. So you can see we're just cutting some sections now. I love demonstrating the clip cube. If you haven't seen this before, it's just such a nice tool to show clients and people who use Vectorworks. They're always amazed when they first see the clip tool. So all you do, you click the clip cube from the mode bar up on the top there. Looks like a little teapot with a section through it. And basically we can section through any point in our model. And the good thing is, if we do want to, we can actually right click and create sectional drawings from here. Now here's a couple of sections that I created earlier. You've seen these in the previous video if you've watched it. If not, I definitely recommend watching part 1. So if I basically go to my classes, you'll now notice that there's been a number of new classes that I've created, mainly to do with the roof, that I just need to turn on. So that when I click update, those new classes are essentially going to pop into the view. Let's go ahead and click update, and we'll come back. It'll take a few seconds, but basically those new rafters will feature in our model. So the section viewport is just processing. You can see the progress down in the render bar, down in the bottom right corner, and there we go. We click update, and basically you can now see in both sections the new rafters and fascias and things like that are now showing. So that's a really nice little extra bit of detail that we've added. If I go back to these views here, these ones that I did quite a long while ago, you can see that basically these isometric viewports will need a bit of updating as well. So basically I'm just going to drag off a copy of that layer and turn on the roof structure layer. Then I'm going to go and turn the classes on, the relevant classes. So let's scroll down. I might as well just turn these others on as well, just for the sake of it. Basically, these are all new classes since I last did the update on the viewport. So let's go and turn on the roof rafter classes, click OK, and basically you can see the new structure coming in there. And let's just basically do the same on the roof layer. You can see loads of A for architect, and then hyphen, and then things like timber frame or wall external. These are all new classes that I've added since we last did the update on these viewports. So do remember that. Okay. I'll go through, I'll click update, and basically we'll have to do that on the others as well. Okay, great. So now you can see the fully updated model. Let's just reposition the roof into the front there. Might need to do a bit of tweaking on the position of these. I really love doing these kind of drawings, what I call my trademark exploded isometric views. What I love about them is they show a bit of a mixture of a sort of internal and external space relationship, but they also reveal the sort of flaws and the kind of structural relationship as well, even on this drawing. So, you may not really need these kind of drawings for kind of construction and building regs, but they're so easy to do and they're so informative. I find that, the client and me and everyone can use these as a point of discussion. And the more the client understands the design, the more input they actually have, I find, and the more they're kind of reassured by the process, because it can be quite daunting for them, when they don't fully understand the architectural process. So if you can explain this with the drawings and the diagrams and the information that you provide, that really, really helps. And as I say, I thoroughly enjoy doing it. It's actually a pleasure to sort of create nice drawings, and Vectorworks has always been my tool of choice for this. I've absolutely loved using Vectorworks for, well, over 20 years. The latest 2021 version is better than ever, and I just think these kind of drawings are my absolute favourite. So to create these kind of drawings is pretty simple. You duplicate the viewport vertically up the sheet and simply turn on and off the required layers and classes as needed to essentially space these out and do kind of exploded views. So yeah, really nice little tip. I tend to do these pretty much for every project just because I enjoy doing it. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed that section. Now we're going to move on a little bit to looking at the foundations. Now this is another project I've opened up, and the reason I've done this is because I've already kind of created the building regs drawings for this project. Basically I'm going to select a couple of elements that I want, the wall types for the foundation and the substructure, and also some of the kind of brickwork for the engineering brick base. So the beauty of this process is once you've done things like the wall types and you've set these kind of things up, you can often borrow them between different projects. You know, architecture is one of these professions where there's an element of creativity, of course, on every project, but there's also a huge amount of repetition between different ideas and designs. So basically really straightforward to copy those through from the previous project and bring those ideas into this one. Okay, so I'm just going to paste in the wall types from the previous project that I was showing you a second ago, where we did the foundation wall and the substructure wall. And what I'm going to do now is basically go onto that layer, okay, paste those in there. And in order to quickly do this, I'm going to go back to my ground floor and simply copy all the walls that I'm needing to basically make foundations for. So select them, copy them, just get those two as well. And then basically what we can do is copy them, go to substructure, paste in place, or Command-Alt-V with the shortcut, and then simply select those walls. Let's just remove the windows and doors from them. You'll notice with the wall tool it's great, you know, the holes repair. This wall can be a single continuous wall, so we'll delete this piece and remove the window. Let's just rejoin those walls there with the joining tool. Alt-J is the shortcut for that one if you don't know that one. Okay, so I've got those walls, there they are. They're obviously the first floor walls. Basically, I'm going to select them all and then use the eyedropper to basically replace them. Or I'll go up to the object info and just essentially replace them with that particular type of wall. So once they've been replaced, we're going to go to the AC menu and delete the wall peaks. This basically gets rid of any kind of peaks in the wall or up above or below them. So that's all looking pretty good. Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to go through a similar process now with the next layer. I'm going to select all of those substructure walls, copy them, and I'm going to go and make a brand new layer. In fact, I'm just going to duplicate the layout. It's a bit easier. All I need to do now is adjust the elevation depth. So this is, remember, a minus number because it's below ground level. So we'll kind of go with -1 meter to begin with. And I think I'll make the footing something like 225 for now. I can always change this later, depending on what the engineer advises or what I decide about the foundation depth required. So basically, let's paste in place those walls. You can see they're already there at this stage, and the substructure and the footings together are being shown. So there's just the footings. So by basically using all of those and just replacing them with a really nice big mass wall of concrete, so this is just not a complicated wall in any way, basically just a big thick wall, there it is, with concrete hatching. Okay, that's cool. There's those footings. And if we see it together, you can see, just spin that round, a little bit of a gap there, and that's just because I've got something wrong with my heights there. So I just need to edit the height and just make that -775, I think it will be. Yeah, excellent. And make the layer wall height 775. So that means it will go up to 0, which is our sort of beginnings of our ground floor layer. Excellent. So it's really easy to adjust the depth of those foundations at any time. If we need to go like 1.2 meters or whatever we need to do later in the project, we just simply adjust those layer heights and the wall heights respond. So it's looking good. So that's another element of the project beginning to come on, the perimeter foundations for the project. We may well need some sort of intermediate support, but I think we're going to go for a ground bearing slab on this project at this stage. Okay, good. So let's have a quick look back at the sections. So we're going to go to the annotations. I'm going to delete basically the grey fill that I just placed below for my planning drawings when I wasn't worried about the construction or showing the foundations on the planning drawings. And all I need to do is basically update the viewport to allow for both the new classes, but also tick layers to update the foundations and the substructure. So let's just double check our classes. Always good to do that, just to check they're all visible. Click OK and click update. So every time you re-update the section, it'll take a few minutes to process, but now that new information that we've added, both the roof and the foundations below, it's going to start coming through into our sections. So we're, adding quite a bit of detail to the model in order to update these drawings. Now, if this happens, when you update the section, I can see that basically the extent of the section isn't quite long enough. And that is because when I first created it, it had a finite depth to it. So basically, you can easily go into the advanced properties and you can adjust this so that it has an infinite depth. That means the viewport will be as big as it needs to be to basically take account of all of the layers. So that should get a little bit deeper now, and you should see the foundation and the footings coming in. I'll just let that update one more time. The section's probably the bit that take the longest to do the updating, but you've got to bear in mind, how long would it take to actually draw these? So the real beauty of this technique is that you can essentially cut sections through anywhere or any part of the building. At the moment on this project, I've just done these two key sections, one long ways and one right through the new extension. So I'm just going through the same process on this one, just going to turn those layers on, substructure and foundation. Again, just check your classes and also the extents. And basically what I can do is I can use the eyedropper tool, if I want to copy through the class and layer visibilities from one viewport to another. And that's a nice little tip. So you can basically copy and drop the settings from one viewport to another. And if you basically click update now, that will match those viewport settings. So that's a really quick way if you've already kind of gone through the process. Excellent. So apart from a little bit of readjustment here, this is looking like a really nice sheet. A bit later on, I might decide to give these a bit more breathing space and actually kind of put them on their own sheets. But for now, I hope you've enjoyed this video, how we add a lot more detail to the roof structure and also the foundations for a project. So I hope you've enjoyed this so far. I'm really looking forward to showing the next part of this video where we're going to be looking at detail and managing details and adding things like notes and construction notes to your project. And we're making some really great progress, but please join me for the next video. If you're new around here, I'd love it if you would subscribe to the channel. We're doing really well on the channel this year and it'd be great for you to join the community. But please put some comments in the section and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks for joining. Bye bye.